Hello, everyone. This is our 5th AMA series, and I'm here with Giliku and Delphine Robbe. Giliku is our community manager, and Delphine is from Gili Eco Trust, our partners. First, for anyone who doesn't know much about Sea Token, we are a cryptocurrency designed to save our oceans, and what makes us special is the dApp suit we're creating, and of course the donations we're giving to organizations like Delphine's. So the dApps we're creating are supposed to be a very easy way for everyone to collect ocean data, even with their cell phone. And then we'll have AI algorithms that are analyzing and validating the data. And our third dApp will make this data available to everyone, to the public and to governments. So we actually have an open source and available to everyone data for our oceans, which is really needed at the moment because our oceans are in a very dire state, and the more information we gather about this, and the faster this goes to the public, the faster we'll realize what crisis we're in.
And Gili Eco Trust is playing a huge role in this. They're doing all they can to protect the islands.
In Indonesia.
In Indonesia. This is Delphine. She's the managing director of Gili Eco Trust. Hey, Delphine.
Hi. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're honored.
Thank you very much, and thank you for thinking of us for the donation. I don't understand much about crypto money or all these things, but I like your initiative, and it's not only the money that you're creating, but all those initiatives to try to get more people aware about the importance of the oceans and how we need to save the ocean. So yeah. Do you want me to explain what is the Gili Eco Trust? Yeah?
Absolutely, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Cool. So the Gili Eco Trust was first created in 2000, and it was to try to defend the water from Gili Matra, a marine protected area in Lombok, Indonesia. So to protect the reefs and the waters there from destructive fishing methods such as dynamite. And
but you guys actually started from being a diving team, didn't you? You were just divers.
No, they were actually youth from the island. So youth from the island, they were interested in saving the oceans and the reef. And this is Evan. No. The reef and Evan, and the reef and the ocean. So you from the island, so local community actually. And so it was their initiative to create like a patrol team to avoid people from Lombok or from Bali to come and to bomb their reef and their future. So, but after a few months of running their own patrol boat, without much help and support, they asked the existing dive shops to help them. And that's when the dive shops, there were 7 at that time, created the Gili Eco Trust that will be like a donation every dive shop will ask from the divers. And so the Gili Eco Trust was born. And
that's amazing.
I arrived on the island in 2004, so the Gili Eco Trust was already there and running with the team from SATGAS, that was the youth association. And then I started to dive and to teach diving, and I was like, oh, I need to do more than just teach diving, so I wanted to give back.
You just started as a dive instructor, and And how did you decide to move on from that?
And then went into I need to give back. I need to give something back to the environment from which I am earning my salary. So I looked into different things we could do, and I started with the Biorock technology.
Yes, we watched the video about it yesterday. It's amazing.
Just stunning. How did you get initiated in Biorock technology? How did you find out about it?
I met at that time internet was not really much of like smartphone and things like this, so it was more like words of mouth, and I heard about a workshop in Bali, so I went there and met the two scientists who invented the Biorock technology, Tom Goro and Wolf Filsberg, and then I convinced one of them, Tom, to come to the Gilis and help us to set up the first reef. And then a year after, so in 2006, they contacted me to say like, oh, we want to do an international workshop in the Gili Islands. And that's when I needed fundings, and I needed more help than just building a reef on my own. That's how I joined the Gili Eco Trust, doing more than just volunteering and trying to learn Bahasa Indonesia with the team of SATGAS and learn how to be nice with everyone rather than being angry every time an anchor was dropped somewhere.
Yes, yes.
It doesn't work.
Yes. Maybe you can explain really quickly what Biorock is, because maybe some people didn't watch the video we posted. It's an amazing technology. It is amazing. So the first investment is quite high for Biorock technology, because we use electricity, so we need cables. The actual material to build the reef is just steel rebars that you use for building, but then with the anode is a special material which is quite expensive as well. So you're going to build an anode and a cathode like this. The cathode is where you're going to attach the corals on, and we only take corals that are loose. We never cut some corals to put them on the Biorock. So you build the cathode, the reef, the steel reef. You sink it, connect it to the cables. You can come back all the way to the beach and connect it to the main grid, to a power supply, or go up into solar panel onto a barge next to the reef. And it delivers direct current. So what we're doing is an electrolysis. So like we're going back to high school, basically, doing an electrolysis and two different metals, two different polarity of metal in a saline water, and with a very low voltage current going, and you're going to see one of the metal disintegrating and the other one growing. So for us, the cathode, where the corals are attached on, it's going to grow calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is also the exoskeleton component of all the hard coral. So any hard coral that we're going to attach on the Biorock is going to grow 2 to 8 times faster.
Awesome.
And not only the corals on the Biorock, but also around. And then the technology is amazing, because every year you can just sink another cathode and connect it to the old one, and the electrolysis process will move to the bare steel, so to the new one. So like this, every 6 months, a year, 2 years, for us, every time we have a group that wants to build their own reef, like making another shape, then we're going to sink another Biorock next to an existing one. So then it's quite low cost. And then the anode material that we use lasts for 10 years. So it's not like the reinvestment is, so that's why we've got quite a lot around here. We've now have 153 cathodes.
Wow.
That's how many, what distance is that? Like miles, maybe?
I'm not sure. I don't speak in miles.
Okay,
sorry.
Kilometers.
I'm
then.
French, but I think it is about I think we've reached like maybe up to 1 hectare of reef restored, but it's in all different places. So if you count only with the cathode, it doesn't. It's lowering how much we actually have restored, because as I said, it's also all the corals around the Biorock that are gonna grow faster, and then not only they grow faster, but they're super resistant to stresses, and there's a much higher survival rate.
Yeah, so what amazed me about this is that electricity is life, you know? It's like flowing through us, and if you have it, let me explain, guys. So these are giant structures of cables. They sink into the water and they run electricity into the cables, and then the corals grow out of them. Like, it's really impressive. Watch the video if you can.
If you get like bigger funding, will you be able to build bigger domes and sink bigger domes and cover bigger spaces with corals?
So our limitation is the electricity. Okay, so for the moment we have most of our reef from the main grid, which is in Indonesia petrol generators. So we've always tried to change that and make the technology sustainable and replicable, so like we could do it anywhere. So we have some reef with solar panels, but then the solar panels are on a barge next to the reef. So it's exposed to waves, storm, and we need to anchor it. So we don't use anchor but mooring buoys to anchor the barge. But then it's still like in Indonesia, we've got really strong current, really big waves, and we've got also not always very honest people. So we have sometimes some solar panels disappearing with the cables and everything else. So it's like, oh, everything is gone. And it's like, okay.
This is actually one of our first Twitter questions. It's like, the Biorock technology sounds great, but has a big downside regarding electricity. How are things going on the subject about renewable and permanent infinite sources of energy? Like, do you have any?
So we have tried to. So my dream and my goal for, I don't know, maybe now 10 years is to make the Biorock sustainable by using the ocean energy. So because the currents in Indonesia are the strongest one, we want to have like a turbine that will spin and power the Biorock directly. So we even tried to build our own, which we did. Like a few years ago, it worked. We tested it on the surface and it worked, but as soon as a boat will pass by, then the turbine will stop. And then it will
sounds like you're like
Sounds
like you're like Tesla of the ocean or something. Like
but we had some grants with like engineer from Europe working with us to design the blades and things like this. And then anyway, so we still had the barge, which was an aluminium barge. And then, as I said, one day the barge disappeared. Anyway, and then from our experience, it doesn't work when it stays on the surface and it's exposed to many things like this, not only the storm, but also people and boats and waves and things like this. So our dream was to find a turbine that can be underwater. And with just before COVID, we found a company who wants to work with us, and they're from UK. They're called the Dino Rotor, and they have designed the turbine for us. So at the moment, we are applying for grants everywhere, grants, awards, prizes, to try to get enough money for when then those guys can come with the turbine. And we're working with an artist as well, Canadian artist, Ben Von Wong, who will do like a Instagram and a selfie thing for Instagram, made out of waste. So it will be like a constant art structure with a core garden next to it, and everything powered from the sea. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you've got big plans. Well, yeah, we can wish you all the best. Let's hope the turbines get produced and work perfectly. Nobody steals them, and they power the reefs all year long.
Those ones will anchor them onto the bottom. It's not possible for them to take them. It just depends on how much fundings we will get. If we can get 1, 2, 3 turbines, or just one to start with, and then every year I think we will move it down the reef. You know, the reef that we want to restore is about 2 kilometers long. It's a slope along the coast of Gili. So we'll start by the top where the current on the north, and then go down, you know. So if we could, it's like, because the slope over there is just a pile of rubble, it's really unstable. So even if the reef wants to grow, every time there is water movement, like waves and current, it just like flips and then be upside down and then die. So we want like to chicken wire all that slope to use the Biorock process to solidify and stabilize the whole slope for the reef to grow.
Yeah,
this is also amazing.
This actually brings us to another question, which is, why won't big international NGOs support effective coral reef restoration? It's like, why are you not getting funding from the big NGOs?
Because what I know from big NGOs is most of the time they want big project, and with the reef and the Biorock you usually start small, but we never know with that project with the turbine if we're going to get some money from big NGOs. But we had some money for the Biorocks in the past, but not really from big NGOs except from Project Aware. Otherwise we had money from like CSR, so it's more like big corporate who want to buy their good consciousness with us, you know. So it's different, because then it's not really big money, and for that project I think my minimal budget is about 50,000 euros, which is not much for a big company, big NGOs. But again, we often too small for them and too local. And then in some other project, like, because we also work with waste management, sometimes we are too honest.
Well,
because we're always honest with the downside. You know, everything can be destroyed with a super yacht coming there and dropping 3 anchors on the reef and things like this, you know, or because of the government that is not easy to deal with in Indonesia, or, you know, anything. So yeah, it's sometimes being too honest. But now, last year, again, with the COVID, I did a course online about how to write grant proposals. So now I'm a bit more emotional in it and going around things rather than direct and too honest. Just learn from our mistakes, you know.
Yes, unfortunately, yeah. One more question from Shania on Twitter, which is related. How effective is the environment protection laws to protect the ecosystem of Gili Island?
Oh, so we are marine protected area since the 80s, but actually we turned into a tourist marine park, or touristic marine park, because the development was too high before the government came to check and try to do things. So since 2012 or 14, the Indonesian government has a Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Affairs. So we're now working with those guys, and we have an MOU with them, and everything looks beautiful on the paper and on the rules and in the book of laws. But the problem is, like, there's no control, there's no education There's rarely any sanction given. So, even the people who are managing the marine protected area don't have the power to sanction people. They also have to make a report. So I report to them, they make a report to the guys who are never here. About a boat coming to fish, about cyanide fishing, about
you gotta deal with them yourself.
Compressive
Yeah,
fishing,
this is why
or anchors being dropped. So that's the frustrating thing. That's why sometimes we lose it, and we're just like cry in a little corner, or we just want to scream. Or
this is one of the things that Sea Token is aiming to solve, actually, because we see that we need to self-organize, and we see that we need an open hub for environmental data, and when anyone can upload about overfishing and information about this, when anyone can access this data, we can validate each other's information, and we don't need the state. We can act on it immediately and have the information right there.
Get some better coordination maybe with the guys responsible for dealing with this, or maybe get an insider man, like someone that actually applies for the job that
Yeah, well, the guys they called from the PSDKP. Anyway, they are based in Lombok, but on the other side of Lombok, so it takes hours for them to come. So now we just wrote a letter to the national government in Jakarta to ask for some of those guys to actually be based in Gili Matra to be able to sanction or to help us control, because we can make report, take photos, when you even see the name of the boat and everything underwater, on the surface. But then we get frustrated because we don't see the action from our reports. And it is because now there's some guys here managing the place, but they still don't have the power to do sanction and to do proper control. So it's moving too slow compared to how fast the destruction will go, So
keep us updated on the letter.
I hope it works. But then, it's again finding the right person to give that letter. So I did about 20.
Maybe we need to think about some alternative ways to deal with these things. I don't know, some activist ways.
I don't know. Indonesia, it's really hard because it's 17,500 islands. So how do you want to control that many islands? Any commercial fishing will come, they can hide easily, or they can just go away. So in some places, like in Rajampat, which is it's not even marine protected area. No, it's marine protected area, but not yet national park. They use drone or ultralight plane to go around. But again, like the petrol for patrol boat to go around, it costs a lot of money. And ultralight plane is the same. And the drone, then it's the electricity of losing the machine, or just like the wind anything like this. And then with a drone, you're not gonna do anything there. With like you see them, you can just take a photo or a video, but then you still need to send a boat somewhere.
But what happens if the reefs die out? What major impacts will we see? This is one of the other questions.
This is already happening with the mass coral bleaching that we can't really control, As some years it's really bad, some years it's okay, but the temperature of the sea gets really high, and too high for the coral to survive. So the coral polyp expel its symbiotic algae that's usually feeding it, and so the corals bleach. And then if the high temperature lasts for a long time, then the coral will die of stress and starvation, basically, because it can't feed anymore.
Yeah, so this is one of the main problems, and we're all aware of it, you know. We have another question here on Twitter. Do you think that ocean acidification has the same effect on marine biodiversity, and is a threat comparable to climate change for terrestrial biodiversity? I really like this question.
It's all linked, actually.
Yes, exactly, yes.
So it's all linked, and to save our planet, we need to focus more on our ocean. And I'm not saying stop supporting the jungle rainforest from deforestation, for sure, but ocean is producing up to 80% of the oxygen we breathe. So the ocean is what we need to protect, and many people are still scared of water or don't know how important the oceans are for us. But ocean acidification is because of too much CO2 in the atmosphere. The ocean is the buffer, is absorbing more than 1/3 of the excess CO2 in the atmosphere. And then that's why it's happening, ocean acidification. And then climate change is also because of CO2, but also because of methane production, and how the earth is getting warmer, and then everything changed, like because it's getting warmer, the climate changes, and so we get a mass bleaching. Yeah, really, and how to stop it, it's really hard, because we have to stop hoping that politicians or big companies are going to do something, and we have to act as an individual and raise awareness. So it's like giving a lot of information, and people can retain whatever resonate with them, but it's like, yes, we need to raise awareness about the importance of the ocean. We can start selecting our waste, using less and less waste, recycling, buying differently, consuming differently, and changing our diet is one of the big things if you want to stop the methane production around the world. And we could actually prevent global warming if we just stop eating beef and dairy tomorrow, you know.
Yeah, I just heard about this.
Yeah, education. We need a lot of education. People just won't give up their meat. But they can change it to something else, I think. You can switch to chicken or duck. I mean, there's those Netflix documentary, the Seaspiracy and the Cowspiracy. Seaspiracy for me was no surprise. I watched it and I was like, yeah, man, I know everything already. But it's good that they made it to educate and to raise awareness, you know. But then some people watch both of them in one night, and then they're like, oh my God, I need to be vegan. Don't need to be that extreme, but at least to eat less, you know? Yeah. Eat less instead of having a burger a day, maybe chicken burger, and maybe just once a week.
Yeah, that's the thing. People just need to know where the meat comes from, because they're used to going and just buying a burger or buying something from the convenience store, like a package of meat. They have no idea how it's produced and where it comes from. They're just used to eating. It's like a steak. The steak is not a cow. It's not an animal. It's just a steak. That's what people used to. And when they see actually where it comes from and the whole process, that's when they know what that steak is. That's when they know.
Well, there will be less people eating meat if they had to kill their own animals to eat it.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Or if next to the meat, all the things you could buy, there will be a little video of the slaughterhouse. That will be different, I think.
Yes. I really like your approach that, you know, we personally can make a great change, you know, with the Biorock, you're proving it, but with global warming, it's just so overwhelming. What big change can we personally make when there are like 90 companies who are responsible for it. It seems to me that, I mean, yeah, education, but also
but
some kind of...
It's you as an individual that you're going to make the change. So it's little changes to be imperfectly perfect, to work towards preventing global warming. So I will say, ban those companies. Look into it. You know, try to learn who is producing what and how they're producing it, where the meat comes from, and why is Delphine saying that we should stop beef and dairy? Why is cattle production the worst thing for our planet? You know, for sure, some companies, they're still using coal, they're still using nuclear electricity or whatever, things like this. But you can blame them, or you can ban them and try not to use them, or you can try to make little impacts at your own level, you know, and by looking into more information, and then switch to your bicycle, don't take your car, change your diet, turn off your lights,
and by doing
don't fly.
And by doing it
well,
yourself,
at the moment nobody can fly.
You kind of affect people around you, because you stop meat, you stop dairy, and you're looking fresh, you know, and your friends are like, oh, you're looking so fresh, what happened? And you're like, well, I stopped meat. And now they all want to try and stop the meat, and your parents want to try and stop the meat.
Exactly.
So,
and then it's okay to be imperfect as well. You don't need to be extreme in one go and you know, go vegan or only raw food or things like this. You know, you can do little changes all the time. Important is to be able to change. You know,
but I'm still like an idealist and a philosopher, and I try to think, how can we make the big change? You know, how can we actually, you know, get through to those companies somehow? It seems, you know, that this kind of like it verges on the question of violence and whether we should be we should have violent or non-violent activism, and it's a big question, because it seems like non-violent activism just doesn't make a dent at all for these companies.
I think that big governments are actually gonna act, like not the companies themselves, but the big governments. Because you look at China just banned video games. They completely banned video games. Now youngsters under 18 years old can only play video games for 3 hours a week, and they have to scan their faces with a scanning device that matches their government ID to prove themselves, and they've got 3 hours to play.
Wow.
I don't approve of China.
We're gonna see with the, you know, the end of the end of the crisis of the COVID. You know, because with all this health pass, they want to control us in some way, but I don't think it's in the good way. You know, it's like they're trying to control us, but not really to reduce anything in terms of environment.
But imagine,
because the crisis has created much more waste.
But if it gets too bad for them, maybe China, just the way that they ban video games, they can ban meat production. They can say we're going vegetarian like our ancestors. We're just and they just completely ban maybe steak. They just ban steak, and they say you can only eat chicken.
Yeah, well, you know, China is also the ones who are eating shark fin soup and seahorses and manta ray gills. So, and I will be hopeful when I see China banning things like this for the ocean. Yeah.
Yes. One more question, which is again related. What is the most cost-effective way to prevent illegal, unreported, and unregulated harvesting in marine ecosystems?
I don't know.
Big question.
I don't know. If I had the solution, I will put it in place straight away. The most cost-effective way to prevent, I don't know. And it's really hard. You know, we need control and law enforcement first, and then you make an example out of this. But here we're really talking like for Gilis, we're really talking about like small little things, you know, locally, and a guy dropping an anchor and someone stealing something, or they're fishing with compressor on a dive site or things like this, rather than like when you work globally and you see those fleet going for the
these are all individuals.
It's like it's just people. And things like this. Yeah, it's
just people. If people change, if new generations change, like the whole awareness that it's raised right now, maybe the guy that's fishing with a compressor, he has no idea that the damage that he's doing. He just knows that he's making a little bit of extra money, and maybe if he knew,
because he needs to feed his family. You also have to be different between the developing country and the developed countries, because I know, for example, in France, the fishermen will not fish anymore if there was no help from the government, because it's too hard to fish and there is no fish, and then the money they earn from fishing is not enough. So if they didn't have the help from the government, they will change job. But in here, it's to feed your family, so they don't take that much anyway. You know, it's just like feeding the family, feeding the few tourists that we have here. It's totally different. It depends on the country, but I think education is the most, and then trying to change people, but by giving the example. Change yourself first, show the example, and then and then we can expect the change. And as I said, the big company, they're not going to change. They're not going to change unless we stop consuming their product.
But there's also substitute jobs, like if you tell the fisher guy like you're ruining the climate for your children, like you're making money for them, but you're also ruining the planet for them, he can maybe switch to a different job, like building composts, for example. Like he can become a compost builder and make money off of that, or even if you get bigger funding, maybe he can join the Biorock building and drop fishing for good and just do something good and make the same amount of money.
Yes, I think things are going to change really quickly. Like we get this information that in 50 years there will be no fish, you know, and we can't even process it the way things are going. Like how do you even process this information? But 50 years is a very short span of time. Like we're talking about 50 years, guys. This means that like they won't be able to fish in 50 years. So they will have to change. This is what like all these messages about the planet, you know, it's very costly to it's very costly for these companies to stop fishing, but they will have to stop fishing in 50 years because of the damage they're doing, you know.
Well, if people stop eating the fish, they're going to stop fishing, you know. If it's, no, but it's true. If, you know, it will take a little while for them to see like the demand is down compared to what they can offer, what they can provide. But it only comes from individual changing little changes, whatever you can do, you know, whatever resonate with you. And then if it makes sense for you, then teach someone, teach 10 people, you know, educate some people around you and say like, I've changed that because, and things like this. And then, you know, you say in 50 years, no more fish, but they also say, oh, in 30 years, there will be more plastic in the sea than fish. I'm sorry, it's already there.
It's just so emotional.
Than fish in the sea, because they don't count the microplastic. And the more plastic we put in the sea, the more microplastic is there. You know, it just disintegrates faster in the sea. We eat it. When you eat the fish, you eat it. And then even on land, you know, there's how many landfill you build, like how many cities have been built on landfill, and then you're pumping the water from there. And
but this huge awareness that we're raising, I think that younger generations, really everybody knows what's going on.
Yes.
At least 50% of youngsters just know what's going on. Then they will eventually just give up on fish and meat because they're not really so stuck on it like older generations.
I hope so, because so far their parents are not listening to them. Yeah. There's not
They
many
don't care. They
parents
won't
who
be
are
alive
showing the
in 50.
example.
Yeah.
They won't be alive in 50 years, so they don't
No.
care. Yeah, they literally don't care.
Yeah.
It's just such a crazy age we're living in.
It's
There's
just
such a
sometimes you don't have the
division.
power to make those changes by yourself as well. You know,
they don't care.
it's still a bit elitist as well, you know, like to consume differently and things like this. And it should be it should be the cheapest thing to do rather than to be for the elite only, you know.
Yeah, I try to be vegan, but when I'm traveling, it's just not possible to be vegan. It's not possible.
Yeah, then you don't get enough.
And then what you eat only vegetables. It's just it's not
Mostly fruits.
mostly fruits.
Salad.
Yeah.
Some vegetables, some seeds.
I need some fat. And you
try
just
tahini.
can't find vegan. It's just also like for people from I don't know, like Africa or Siberia or something, Siberia, like when you tell them you be vegan, they're like, are you crazy? Like you can't survive like this. This is like
because
stupid white people, you know.
It doesn't make sense.
Also I'm
it
thinking
will make sense soon.
It's hard to make the change.
I mean,
you can be vegan sometimes, but be vegetarian or flexitarian. But as long as you understand, you know, that you need to reduce some kind of food and
guys,
why.
we're running short of time. We gotta answer some more questions. We got some live questions to ask. Do you think ocean acidification on
we already asked that one.
Oh, we asked that one. Okay, then. As the Biorock wire structure calcifies, what happens to the salinity of the surrounding waters? Is a question.
So that's a chemistry question. So anything that is with an electrolysis stay balanced. So as much as we produce is lost as well. So it's just it balance all the time. So the salinity of the water stayed the same.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got some live questions. Do you see your land-based work like waste management and sea-based work like reef protection as linked in some way?
Yeah. Well, I started with the ocean work and the reef work, and then after a while, I need to go and work on land as well. And I delay the waste management as much as I could because it's working with humans, and it's so much easier to work with fish, corals, horses, and cats. And then when it's working with humans, that means education and trying to change them. And then I knew I will get frustrated because, for example, with waste management, waste separation in Europe took 2 generations to be in place, and it's still not happening everywhere, even in some part of my family. So trying to see it in my lifetime on a small touristic island in a developed country where people don't know what is sustainability, it's hard. You know, the first time I started to teach about environment and waste in the local school. They were young, the kids, but I still asked, where does plastic come from? And they were all happy to answer, from trees. And I said, no. Right? Because we brought plastic to them. Now, not so many years before, and before that, their parents were only using banana leaves and rattan as bags. So we brought plastic, super cheap, and they're all dumping it in anywhere.
Civilization.
It's organic, So there is a lot of work to do. So and still on it.
We have another awesome question.
And sometimes the communities learn faster than the government.
There's this question: as a diver and a tourist, how can we help to protect the reefs?
All right, come to learn with me. Hands-on training, not only about the Biorock, but the main thing I teach is reef gardening. So you first learn about the marine ecosystem, what is what, hard coral, soft coral, sponges, algae, where is good, where is not good. And then you learn how to do reef gardening. So I always dive with gloves because I don't want to get, and then not because I like to touch everything and hurt everything, but because on every dive, anywhere in the world, I know I can do my bit and help. It will be like from flipping one little coral that is upside down, and I've got tweezers are always on me because I take predators off the corals as well. So
awesome.
yeah, and always have a net bag to collect plastic. So those 3 things that you learn with me, but you can't touch everything without knowing if you're helping or not.
Education again.
Okay. So yeah, so if anybody is touring the Gili Islands, you should definitely go check Delphine out. She can teach you all about marine biodiversity, and coral gardening, and Biorock, and everything. Really, just get educated with that. Yeah, and keep a pair of scissors in your pocket when diving, and know what to do with them.
We have scissors as well. That's for nets. That's for nets and fish line. But the tweezers is to get. We've got little snails that are called dropella all around the world, and they eat the coral polyps. Okay, so you can't just go in the reef with your fingers. So you need the tweezers to take them out because they're deep into the coral. So this I spend hours, and I come back with loads of dropella. What do I do with them? You can't kill them because they're like super strong seashells, so you can't kill them underwater. So I take them out of the water and I put them in my compost, so my soil get more and more calcium.
Nice.
So if I take a little trip to the Indonesian islands, now I can come to you and you can teach me all about diving.
Let's do it together.
Exactly.
Awesome.
I will show you.
Yeah. Right, cool.
One more question. You're fighting a local battle, but the planet is changing. Can you succeed with your local goals if global climate change continues? Yeah, important question.
Yes, I've already succeeded in my local goals, and and usually when it's not the crisis, the Gili Islands are visited by 1 million people per year, at least 1 million. So I bet I can make an impact there as well, because they all enjoy. We've got some like selfie Biorock, it's not, you're not sitting on the reef, but we've got some Vespa. So, and then behind it's the reef growing. So on the Vespa, underwater Vespa, so you can take a photo there. There's no corals growing, but behind it is all connected to Biorock. So then people learn a little bit about that, and we've got a weekly beach cleanup, and in normal time we get up to 80 people joining. So as we do reach people when Indonesia has its border open. So yes, it's still hard to see that sometimes mass coral bleaching happen, and then we feel useless and we feel that we can't do anything to help the reef. But again, by raising awareness and educating people and schools or school groups coming to see us, I always tell them about diet change and what they can do. So that's how I hope in my lifetime I could see a change in climate change. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, this is great. Like word to mouth, every tourist you meet, just everyone that's more open-minded and try and change their view and make them more aware. That's awesome. Well, great. Well, yeah, we had a great time talking with you.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.